Hello, everyone. I'm Susan Fowl. I'm a marriage and family therapist, and I'm also pursuing my PhD right now in medical family therapy. So today I'm going to talk to you about mental health and support services for parents. So we're going to go through a few different things here. All right, so first we're going to start because I'm sure you've had a busy day, and I just want us to pause for a minute, and we're going to do guided imagery for a couple minutes just to give you guys a little break, and then we'll start with the presentation today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the guided imagery.
Take a few slow, deep breaths and slow down. As you free your mind from all unnecessary thoughts. You feel your mind being transported to a serene and tranquil environment. You're standing near a waterfall that's cascading down the mountainside. The air is warm and fragrant with an aroma of sweet tropical flowers. There's the sound of exotic birds. A lush green surrounds you. As you enjoy the warmth of the sun, the sound of the waterfall. Now stepping underneath the waterfall, you feel the water flowing from the top of your head and down your neck, across your shoulders, down your arms and hands, and then into the earth. You experience the water washing away all the tension from your body and your mind. Feeling fresh and invigorated. You step out of the waterfall and in your own time make your way back to the room.
All right, hopefully that's got you in a good place to cover. Got a lot of things to cover today. I could have talked for a couple of hours, but it'll be just about 40 minutes today. All right, let's start with our agenda. So we're gonna talk about mental health overall for adults, and we're gonna talk about parenting and mental health and child development a little bit. And then we'll talk a little bit about caregivers and support strategies to help you guys. Well, I was at a Twins baseball game a couple years ago, well, actually 6 years ago, and I was with my son Chase, so that's my son Chase there, and he passed away in 2015. He was diagnosed at age 24 in 2011 with colon cancer stage 4, and after many surgeries and chemos, he did not survive it. But anyway, so we were at a baseball game, and it was a baseball game that was for colon cancer awareness that night. And as we were watching, I noticed there was a gentleman a few seats ahead of me, and on the back of his shirt, he had this message, and I just thought it was so meaningful. I read it and I looked over at Chase and I thought, that is Chase. And that is so many of you that I've met, is that your cancer may take away that physical part of you, but you're not going to let it touch your mind, and you're not going to let it touch your heart or your soul. And we actually put that on his service, his funeral service. All right, so as I was saying, we're not going to let that define you. So I want you to think about who you are as a person. So if you had to describe, this is who I am, this is my personality, take a second, couple seconds, and think about, who are you and what are you? Okay, so here's some things I was thinking about when I was thinking about personalities that people may have. So you're clever, funny, smart, time management, organized, maybe faith-based. So really, who are you as a person, a personality, and not letting that cancer define you? And so in this cancer journey, what are some things that you've learned since you've been there? So think about a minute and think about what you've learned on this journey. All right, here's some things that I put on the list here of some things that, you probably have learned navigating cancer, and, the people that you've met along the way and the friendships that you've met along the way also. But you've also learned some different things about you as a person and skills about you as a person and who you are. So think about those things as you go on this journey. All right, so as you're thinking about who you are, I want you to look at this scale of 1 to 10, or thinking about cancer and not letting it take over your life. We're going to put cancer in place. So think about, how much has cancer been taking over your life? How much has it been taking over your time or energy? So on a 1 to 10, what would you say that would be? Ask yourself, is it limiting you, isolating you? So how is cancer affecting your relationships, and isolating you? As I said, you can renew those relationships, begin new relationships now. So as we're talking about this communication and how we envision ourselves, I want us also to reframe, what it is, what cancer is. We want to separate cancer from us. It's not our personality. It's not who all we are. So let's think about rephrasing, separating cancer from who you are as a person, and really tame that cancer creation. So here's some questions to think about for yourself. What does cancer look like? What does it feel like? What does it look like to your family? And so really separating again, reframing so that cancer is separate from you. Communication. So when I start with a family for marriage and family therapy, I usually start with a genogram. And when you're working with a family that's dealing with some type of medical concern or issue, you're going to look at also a genogram, which is like a family history that you're doing. You're looking at past generations. And so I would do a medical genogram. And so looking at past generations of your family, what were those different health issues, but also, what were the beliefs around that? What were the stories around that? And look at both of you as parents, what does your family history look like? What does yours look like? And what does the other parents look like? And so those beliefs and how those family systems were for past generations also is going to be how you're going to look at this, the journey that you guys are on right now. So you also, it's going to impact your communication, because an example would be, say, one family, they talked about all different health issues at the dinner table, shared all the personal stuff, but then the other parent, they never talked about that kind of thing. They were very stoic. That was something you just didn't talk about. So then when these two people get together as parents, they have a different communication style, and it can create some issues in the relationships. So this is just another area to look at. You want to be realistic on adaptations of how you look at it, also processing, and really accepting the unacceptable feelings. You want to be realistic, when you're talking about this, and understand the other person. Okay, so as we move from communication, and you're thinking about you as a person with cancer or your partner or the other parent with cancer, now let's go into some parenting, and let's really talk about how parenting is played out with cancer. So being a parent and having cancer, or being a caregiving parent, and your spouse or partner has cancer. So with the household, we're going to talk about the family systems and your kids and household. So with family systems and cancer, I'd like you to go back and think about before you had cancer and you were a parent, or when you first became a parent, what were some of the rules that you had in your household? What were those expectations of everybody in the household that you had? So take a minute and think about that. And then I want you to think about the roles. What are the roles in your family? Who's in charge of what? And this is all before cancer started, or when you first became a parent. What were the roles of everybody in the family? So take a minute and just really think about that. You jot them down. And then lastly, the family systems, we have what we call boundaries. And so there are different types of boundaries. So a family that has, say, clear boundaries, that's what they call a healthy family. You have a clear parental system. You don't have the kids being the parents are unified and they're one system. And then you have subsystems. So that's one. There's enmeshed, which is a tight-knit family. They're nurturing, but they can be at risk as having and not having outside relationships or not having autonomy, because they're very enmeshed as a family. And then you could also have a rigid boundary family, and that's one that's overly restrictive and really permits very little contact with the outside. So they've got these rigid boundaries, nobody's coming in, whereas enmeshed, you're going to have some people come in, but you're going to not have separateness as a family. Now, I want you to think about your parenting now. So what are the rules now in your household that you have after we just talked about that? So take a second and think about, what are the rules that I have right now in my household? What are the roles? What's everybody's roles in your family right now? And then lastly, what are the boundaries? What do they look like in your family? Because a lot of times they evolve. I know my family, we really became an enmeshed family when Chase was sick. And so we are very tight, and we're into everybody's business. They were adult children. And so how's your family when it comes to boundaries? So you've got your family system. You've thought about your roles and rules and boundaries. Let's talk about the children. So you've got your children, and this is a little slide for you to help you a little bit with child development and how it's impacted with coping and cancer, or any type of transition that's happened with kids. So you've got a 4-year-old, and they're going to look at it a little bit different than, as you can see, as a teenager. So you've got your 4-year-old, and so they really lack that mature logic. They might feel they are the blame for cancer, as if they also feel the blame for other things that happen to parents. They feel the blame if parents get in arguments. They feel they're blamed for parents that might get divorced or separated. And in that stage of 0 to 2, the brain is developing right now, and then they're doing attachment with the caregiver really from the age 0 to 5. So that's your early childhood, working on attachment, brain development. And then as you start to get in the toddler stage, they have cognitive, the language is developing, communication skills, they're learning about self-regulation. And then you get into the preschool age and they're doing all that, but plus they're also starting to have a little moral development in the preschool age. And then we get into the grade school age, and say you have a 10-year-old and they might be frightened that something's contagious. So they might think that somebody else is going to get cancer in the family. So they don't always understand that. And if you have kids, you probably heard that even with COVID. A lot of kids, they don't understand COVID and how that works. And the same thing with cancer. And so they're going through school, and the other stages that you add on, layering besides all the other ones I listed, they're going through that. But then at school age, they're now in the phase of also play and fantasy. So, what can happen with them is that because of their fantasy, they can start building a story around what's really happening in the family, or what's really happening with the parent that has cancer that maybe is not all accurate, misinformation, it can be really scary to them. And that's because they're at the stage of their life, it's play and fantasy. And then we get to the teenage years, and teenage and young adults, and they're really at the separation stage in their life. And that's really because they're realizing that they're an individual person. They can go out and have their own life, a social life, and making decisions on different things. So they are really becoming separate. And then with mental health in children. So when you think about it, 1/4 of all cancer patients have children under age 18. So that's a big population of colon cancer. Young adults, it's, I know, a huger population with that. And so, as I said, so you've got that. And then you also have other transitions that kids also deal with. So you've got, as I said earlier, routines are changing, life growth. So a transition might be that one child now has a driver's license, or one child is going to middle school. And so those are developmental kind of growth. Moving, new school, parent has a new job. Those are transitions that really affect kids also. They feel it, as I said earlier, separation, divorce, and of course, as we were talking about, any health issues. So any normal kid that has no mental health might transition through these different things. But if you've got a kid that's dealing already before a cancer diagnosis with some mental health issues such as ADHD, autism, separation anxiety, they may have OCD, they may have oppositional defiance, or intermittent explosive disorders. So they're already coming into this with these mental health concerns, and then now they're trying to understand a parent having cancer. So some of the things that might help kids, whether they've got mental health issues or not, with trying to, the parents can really help their kids through some of this. And these are really 3 arenas for focus. There's the daily routines, there's the shared family times, and this will really help kids on this journey. So when we look at daily routines, it gives them a sense of security. You're really affirming, life affirming messages. You're also, enlisting family or community helpers to help with those regular routines. So the child realizes that their life is important, because children, that is what they're focused on, is about them and their life, and they want to feel the parents are part of that. And then the next thing is shared family time. And with shared family time, that's another focus also, because you're really, again, you're kind of keeping that security there and kind of stable. You're having your family time together, regular family time, and it doesn't have to be some big event. I mean, it can be 30 minutes that you do a week. Wherever you can fit in, that's preserving a regular family time. And then really not having a lot of unfamiliar adults coming in and being a part of it if you have a game night or movie night, because the kids really want to share time with the family. And, that's building those rituals by having that. As I mentioned, game night or dinners or, religious services. All of that helps with that family shared time with kids. And then the last one is really enhancing parent-child communication. And so we'll talk a little bit about communication too throughout this. So when you're thinking about communication, you know, as I said, some kids, they'll start to fantasize a version of what's really happening in the family, what's happening with the cancer, what's the future of what's going to happen with the cancer. So they need more information, or they might need a clear explanation during this. So you want to be really welcoming the questions, be willing to discuss it. And if you don't know the answer, you know, there are things that you can say. So I'm going to give you a couple ideas of things that you can say to kids. And you want to keep it simple. I really think about developmentally appropriate language. And as I was talking about earlier about the stages of development for children, you know, those are guidelines. You know what your child is, and you know how they are with school and that kind of thing. And so that's where you decide what that's going to be for them. And then some of the questions that you can think about that you can ask them, that gives you a little bit of insight of where they're coming from when they ask that question. You might say, you know, and so they feel valued also, and that their question's important. And that's why saying that that's an important question. Or wondering why they asked that. You know, that might give you a little more insight on why they asked that, so that when you answer, you've got a little bit clearer answer for them and not a big long answer when all it was maybe just a simple two-word answer for them. And then, as I said earlier, if you don't have the answer right then, that's okay. You know, you can validate their question and then tell them you're going to think about it, or you're going to talk about it with mom or dad or the doctors. So they know you're listening, they know you value their question, and that you're going to get back to them on what it is. So it's okay not to have all the answers right away. Or if you want to think about how you want to word it, that's developmentally appropriate for them. You know, give yourself time to really formulate that answer you want to say. Okay, so here's some other things also of helping kids through transitions. So, you know, some of them, you know, we just talked about, but I just want to go back and review this real quick. So again, you know, daily routine, you're giving that security, you're sending that message to them. You're really, as I said, family time, talked about that, regular family activities. It doesn't have to be a huge, big event. It can be something small. It could just be doing back rubs for each other. It could just be putting lotion on each other's hands. I mean, it can be really simple, inexpensive, but it's family time. And it's nice if it's a touch activity, such as I said, you could do lotion or back rub, that type of thing, or rub feet. And then communication, so important with kids, that you're having it, it's simple. And then lastly, that we haven't talked about before, I mean, kids hear everything. You think they don't hear, they hear everything. I deal with kids with very traumatic trauma situations that parents think they didn't hear any of it, and they hear it. So they really hear everything. So really being aware of those phone calls that they might hear, and then formulate their own fantasy or how they think it's happening. And so that can cause some fears for them. You might notice in the behavior changes, if you're seeing behavior changes in your kids and you're saying, why are they doing that? They've never done that before. Go back and think about, you know, maybe they overheard a phone call. So maximizing some coping skills, really. As I said, we've talked about a few of these. So you're really supporting the child through this and, you know, giving them some different things that are going to help them. You know, you can ask, you know, child about their day. They feel valued. If you're going to come to do hospital visits, kind of telling them what's it going to be like. What's the expectation of it? Even though if they've been there before, it may be a little different this time. So tell them what to expect. Have an adult that they know, bring them to the hospital. As I said a few minutes ago, really protecting that family time, not having adults they don't know join, and encouraging family and friends not to call during dinner time or during family time. So you really keep that sacred for your family. And again, the communication, I can't say enough how much that really helps welcoming those questions. You're respecting the child's wish, you know, and helping with that worry that they may have. Another area for parents is really when you think about mental health, for parents' mental health, and also children's mental health. So for parents, you want a secure setting, and you want to help your children with coping and their perspectives. It really decreases the depression or anxiety that you'll have as a parent, and worrying about them when you can really tend to some of these things that'll really help with that. And you want to remember, you're a good parent. Don't judge that you're not a good parent. Really confirm to yourself that you are a good enough parent right now. Whatever the circumstances, you're a good enough parent right now. Understanding of emotions and reactions, and also intimacy with your partner, and then really your family cohesion. With children, on some of the mental health, again, a secure setting. They can have depression or anxiety. So how do you decrease that? Some of the things that we were talking about earlier kind of helps with that. Decreasing those negative fantasies with them helps with those. The communication decreases all your problems or worries with kids, and really decreasing conflict where you can, and decreasing misunderstanding of roles. So, you're changing the roles of who's in charge of what in the household. So that can be confusing to them. That's a transition, another transition for kids. So helping them explain why that's going on. All right, let's talk a little bit about caregivers. So you guys are so important to this whole picture of caregiving. So you're parenting and you're a caregiver also. So how do you make that through every day? It's not easy being a caregiver. And you're not alone in it. And you've got tools to help you. And sometimes when we're a caregiver, we're on call 24 hours a day. You want to think about nurses. They work 8 or 12-hour shifts. But a lot of times as caregivers, we're working 24-hour shifts, and we're getting very little sleep, and we're eating here and there. But to be a great caregiver, you want to think about, like when you're flying on an airplane, you're going to put your mask on first before you help anyone else. So same thing with caregiving. You've got to do some self-care for yourself, and here's some strategies that should hopefully help you. And again, just like the family night, it doesn't have to be a lot of time, but snippets of time through the day, make sure you do this for yourself. So relaxation time, meditation. You can pull up any guided imagery on your phone and do it 3 to 5 minutes like we did at the beginning today. You can ask a friend or family member to come give you a break, or you have them give you a break so you can meet another friend for coffee or go for a walk. So give yourself a break. I always say dance to music. That always makes you laugh and smile. So put on your favorite music and you can dance. Who cares? Arts and crafts. That's very therapeutic. Different people, they knit, they paint, or pick up a new arts and craft. Cooking, you could do some cooking. The coloring books, there are all sorts of coloring books that are very therapeutic, that you're focused on that, and that's what you're doing. Read some funny fiction, laughter, create serotonin. So that also is very healthy for you. Try a new recipe, watch a funny movie. There's also laughing yoga. I know my therapist told me to look for laughing yoga. I did not find it, but there is such a thing as laughing yoga that, again, it helps bring that serotonin. Or you can just do a yoga that's just a very calming yoga. And again, you don't always have to go somewhere. With all the technology now, you can just go in another room by yourself or sit outside and bring up a video that can help you through some of these things. But really give yourself permission to take care of yourself. And I came up with a list of some mental health supports for you. So there is, first of all, I'm big on this, is the medical family therapist. If you're not seeing a medical family therapist, ask your oncology doctor or your physician. The medical family therapists, like I said, I'm getting my PhD in that right now, and they specialize in working with families dealing with medical issues or medical trauma. And so they understand the family system. As I said, they're going to do a genogram that is a health genogram. And so they'll do, what's the health and medical history of the family? What are the stories? And those are really important to go through that. So they will do that. The other thing that a medical family therapist does is they collaborate with your medical team. So they know what the doctor's telling you in the diagnosis. Some of them can be there while you're at your doctor's visits and you're talking about what's the next stage, what's the next treatment plan that you want to try, or treatment you want to try, what's the next trial you want to try. So they're a part of your medical team, the biological part of your team. They also know what support is out in the community. So there may be things you don't know about. And if they don't, a lot of times they research it, or they're working closely with social workers, because that's, again, part of the medical team. They understand child development. So the things I talked about earlier on child development, they'll know those. And so you can say, hey, I have a 6-year-old and this is what's happening. And they can tell you, hey, these are some things, some interventions that you might want to try with working with your child. They also know about couples. So you're having some situations with intimacy or communication with your partner. And so those are things. So you can do individual therapy with them, or you could do family therapy with them. And so that really helps. And so there's your communication skills with everybody in the family. And then the treatment plans with the therapist, if you've had a therapist before, they're going to include the family and they'll include the medical team. So all the people that are involved in your system as your family and you are going through this journey. And then here are some other supports for you that are out in the community. So I know a lot of you know some of these, but there's a couple of them you may not know. So of course there's online communities that you can do, Facebook or whatever. You've got a lot of colon cancer communities that you can do as the patient or as a caregiver. And there's also a group I don't know if you're familiar with. It's called Parenting at a Challenging Time, PAC. And they are out of Massachusetts. General Hospital Cancer Center. And so they really have some deterrent support. So go to their website, call them, contact them. They have some wonderful things. I know I've taken some training from them, and wonderful organization as far as that goes with parenting. American Cancer Society. They also can help with different support groups, whether it be in person, online. Your oncology doctor, also same thing. Another one you may not know about, and this gal is down in Minnesota. She's wonderful. It's called Conversations with Kelly. And so normally she does them in person. So if you're not in Minnesota, you couldn't go. But now she's doing them virtually because of COVID. So anyone now, I highly recommend taking advantage of some of her things that she does. And she was a marriage and family therapist in an oncology office here in Minnesota for many years. And then she broke off and started her own program, which is the Conversation with Kelly. And she does all different topics, and she'll have different speakers talking, and it's about different types of cancers and journeys, and there is grief and loss in there too. So various things you can look. Gilda's Clubhouse, I don't know if you have one in your community. There's lots of them around the country. If you're in a big city, they have all these free programs. Of course, now it's mostly all virtual, but what they do have virtual is they have virtual cooking classes that are great right now. They do yoga virtually right now. They have a knitting group, they have art therapy, and they have support groups. So they have support groups for caregivers, for young adults with cancer. They have couples. I mean, they have all sorts of things. Grief and loss groups, parenting groups. So they have a lot that you can also reach out to. And as I said before, your oncology offices, hospitals, and then I mentioned the yoga, the laughing yoga. As I said, I have not gone, but I highly recommend it. All right, so I want to end with, as I said, laughter creates serotonin. And so I want to leave you with a lot of serotonin in you. So we're going to watch a video that hopefully is going to create a lot of laughter so you can go for the rest of your day with a little bit of serotonin in you. All right. Well, I hope you had a lot of laughs. I enjoyed sharing with you today. Love to hear from anybody. If you need anything, and glad I could spend time with you guys today. You guys take care. Thanks for your time. Okay, there we go. I'm unmuted. Sorry. That was filmed ahead of time. So now you got me live. So put some questions in here if you've got some questions. So I see the first one from the gal who's got a 2-year-old. And so with 2-year-olds, they, as I said earlier, they like play, and they develop through play, they learn through play, they process trauma through play. So one idea you might think about working with her is, ask her to pick out her favorite animal or character to be her, and then one to be you. And then you do kind of what we call a child direct play. And so let her do some of the playing out of moving the characters or saying things, and then you can reply back. And so you can then slowly intertwine about going to the doctor. And, how do you feel about me going to the doctor? It might be kind of scary, and so I wish I also puppets. Hold on a minute. So I have my whole bag of puppets, since I'm doing virtual right now, underneath. And so children, I have even 10 and 12-year-olds that we do puppets, or they'll have superheroes. And so they'll talk through these instead of just talking to you. So this is a good way that they can feel that they're expressing how they feel, and they're working through it, because they also work through it, the worries they may have. And then those things may come up that you never thought that they were thinking that might come up with that. Okay, let me go to the other questions. Hold on one second. Okay. Yeah, I think that, as I was talking about, family history and beliefs that family members have about health issues and how they deal with them as a family, is important. And, yes, it can be a worry. Chase was 24 when he was diagnosed, and I have 2 other children. So yes, I worry about that also. And as I said earlier, with teenagers, they're at that stage. I remember my kids were that age, they're really trying to separate, and you want to pull them in. Come on, we want you for the family dinner. We're going to have a family night and playing a game. But they're also at that stage in their life that they are trying to separate. So it's just their development. And as hard as it is for parents to really, know that that's part of their development, it's hard. You really want to hold on to them. And particularly if you're dealing with cancer, you're like, no, why are they leaving? I want to be with them right now. And they want to be with their own separateness. Yeah, that's even though they have language delay. I specialize in children 0 to 5. I work with all kids, but that is my biggest group that I work with currently. And even if they don't have language, you still have that pretend play, and they're acting it out with whatever type of verbal noises they have, or if they don't have any, it's good to play. You can say to them, go pick out who you want to be today. I'll pick out who I want. Or like I said, if you have puppets, and you can make puppets out of paper bags. You don't have to go and buy puppets. So be creative. Sometimes they like to make the puppets too. Well, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. It was different videotaping it ahead of time, and then now watching myself on the screen was different. I am getting my PhD, and it'll be medical family therapy. And so, as I said, that one, there's not a lot of them out. There's a huge need, and I want to work in an oncology office. So I would be the therapist, mental health therapist, that would work with the families that are coming into an oncology office. So, and all my research right now, I'm working on research of how a cancer diagnosis affects the family system. So that's one reason I wanted to speak about today, about kids' development in the family system, because that's what I'm working on for research. Yeah, this is my second career. I was a retail district manager, and I worked for several national chains. And when Chase got sick, I couldn't find a therapist that got it, and one that understood young adult children that are just starting their life having cancer, and how does that affect everybody in the family. And he didn't want to move home. I would love to have him move home, and I could be the mom, take care of him, but he was an adult. And so we could not find anybody. And so that's why, as Chase came to end of life, I left my career and went back to school and got my master's in marriage and family therapy. And I work for an agency in Minnesota right now. Yeah, it is. I agree with you, Becky. It is really scary when you have a family member with cancer, and you do wonder what is the history and what can happen. So it's the best thing you can do being preventive is, listen to your body. And if you don't get answers from your doctors, go to another doctor and really just catch it early if you think that if it does happen. But it may not. You don't know. Oh gosh, so he had a really short time frame. There's a gal I'm getting ready to do a Facebook conversation with, and that happened with her husband. He was diagnosed, and within a couple weeks, he did not have time to even start treatment, unfortunately. So it is hard. It comes very quick. And with somebody that has cancer, you have that anticipation of what might happen. And so you have that grief, not only after somebody passes, but you have the anticipatory grief too. Yeah, at 72, chemo is a hard road for that age. I lost my dad a year after Chase passed away. So and that was in 2016. Chase passed away in 2015. And then in 2016, a couple months after we hit the anniversary of Chase, my dad passed away on St. Patrick's Day. So I figured they both went up to heaven to party. They both liked to have a party. They were Irish. How did I deal with the grief? It was really hard. And the first year I was in a fog. I said and did things I don't even remember, and people called me out on it. And I'm like, I don't know what I said or what I did for a year. And then year 2, I was starting to kind of wake up and realize some things. Year 2 was really hard for me. And year 3, we just hit the 5th anniversary, obviously 2020. And I I got an individual therapist. Obviously, that's my field. And I also, I took some medication, and that helped, both of those. And I also have now a community of other moms here that we meet regularly. They lost their children in different in accidents and by suicide, so different from me. But I just think that when you can talk to somebody who's been through it or has got it, it kind of helps because you have those emotions, and they hit you. You hear music, you smell something, you see something, and it triggers you. And with grief, and you don't know, why am I upset today? What is going on? And that was one of those things could have triggered you. And that's what makes it tough. I also tried to, like I said, get some laughter. And then I got into Hallmark movies, so I was a big Hallmark movie watcher, which I still am. So anyway, so find something that might make you laugh. It's good too. So so one of you has 4 and 7-year-olds. Some of the things I said before. Anyway, you can go through Meryl or Colon Cancer Alliance. I am happy to chat and mentor anybody. I can't be your therapist on the phone, even though I do telehealth right now, unless you're in Minnesota. So I can only do Minnesota. So, but I'm happy just to be a friend or a mentor, to really just ask whatever questions that you need. And thank you so much for coming to my session today. I really appreciate it. And I think we are probably just about done then. And you guys have a great day. I'm going to plug my other thing. I have guided imagery right after this. Obviously, I like guided imagery therapist. So go to guided imagery. It's a different video. It's muscle relaxation. So it's another thing for you to learn. So anyway, take care of yourselves. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.